welcome back to Teen Story Share. This week we're doing something a little bit different. That's because we are actually taking a short break with some of our video programs for the next few weeks so that we can get ready for our summer program. So if you want to know what all we're planning for summer, you can check out our website calendar. I'll put a link to that below. And I'll just tell you right now, it's an animal theme. It's called Tales and Tales. So there will be animals involved. Okay, so for this week, we're just going to read a few excerpts from an interesting book called The Encyclopedia of the Exquisite. This is a nonfiction book, and like it says in the title, it's an encyclopedia. Everything's in alphabetical order, but they're kind of weird, random, quirky entries. So we're going to read two of those, and starting with string, which was your hint from the introduction. One of the entries is a string, and the other one is, well, you'll see in just a minute. And if this proves to be popular or interesting for people who are watching, we might do this again in between books. All right, some of the entries I was thinking about reading were the color black, kimonos, felines, Japanese fans, Kumari, the living goddesses of Nepal, Marie Antoinette's hairstyle, and there's all sorts of unusual topics in here. So if any of those sound interesting, let me know. But for today, we're going to start with the bob, a woman's style of short haircut. Do you think I ought to bob my hair, Mr. Charlie Paulson? Charlie looked up in surprise. Why? Because I'm considering it. It's such a sure and easy way of attracting attention. So wrote the 24-year-old F. Scott Fitzgerald, conjuring Bernice, a society belle on her way to becoming a society vampire, in his story, Bernice Bobs Her Hair, published in 1920, when a woman's threat to visit the barbershop for a bob stupefied, and when the sight of her there could draw a crowd. History credits French libertines with inventing the scandalous hairstyle, cut sharp and short at the jawline. Take, for example, the eurythmic dancer Cariatis, who, when rejected by a would-be lover, lopped off her tresses in a fit of heartbreak in 1913, and inspired her dance student, Coco Chanel, to do the same. Across the ocean in America, where short hair and short skirts defined an audacious new breed of coquette called the flapper, incredulous style watchers traced the bob's origins to Bolshevism. Intellectual Russians, on the run, adopted the style for convenience in disguising themselves when the police trailed them, the New York Times explained. Once they'd escaped, they settled in Greenwich Village, where they were imitated by artists like Clara Tice, who bobbed her hair in 1908. Here's the bobbed lady. In the 17th century, bobbed described a short traveling wig, and later the blunt cut of a horse's tail. A lithe American dancer, Irene Castle, popularized the racy hairstyle in the United States. Castle and her dashing husband, Vernon, known for their smooth tango and mincing maxites, were ballroom idols when she gave herself a drastic pre-appendectomy haircut, making headlines in 1914. I just couldn't stand the thought of strange nurses and attendants fussing over my head, she said. The next week, 250 women had their hair cut. The week after, it was 2,500, and then it was impossible to keep count. A ribbon decorated with pearls, soon called the Castle Band, held flyaway locks in place, as did the newly invented bob pin. And here I have some visuals for you. This is a bobby pin. This is not a hairpin. That's a common mistake, actually. This is a hairpin. This is what women used to use before the bob was in style, and you can probably tell by looking at it, this is not going to work in short hair. It would only work to hold up long hair. So that's why the bobby pin was invented, so that women with bobbed hair could hold their short hair back. And here's the extra large bobby pin. As popular as it was, the look was still controversial. Conservative matrons played it both ways, wearing bobbed wigs. Others suffered. One foreign correspondent explained that the bob offered her comfort for the first time in my life, free from the burden of styling her long, unruly hair. Still, she grew it out before returning home from covering the war in France. My husband is numbered among the group opposed to bobbed hair. Opposition was formidable. Schoolteachers, nurses, shopgirls, and railroad office workers were prohibited from wearing the cut in various regions. If a girl goes so far as to bob her hair, her work will probably be affected, and she could not give 100% efficiency, argued a Baltimore insurance executive, convinced a bob demonstrated a distracting vanity. Newly shorn teens explained their haircuts to parents and policemen with Jack the Clipper tales. A Bronx girl said a highwayman seized her on the street and chopped her hair, while an 18-year-old in Queens claimed an Italian man of 50 had snipped off her flaxen braids. Modernization called for drastic measures. The story of Fitzgerald's Bernice grew from a pointed 10-page letter he'd written from Princeton at age 19 to his sister Annabelle, then 14, instructing her on how to become a fascinating modern woman. He told her to groom her eyebrows, choose jaunty hats, refine her awkward walk, and kid the boys, while cultivating a pathetic, appealing expression to win them over, head hung, staring up directly into their eyes. "You have beautiful hair," he conceded, assessing her best traits. "You ought to be able to do something with it." Alright, and as promised, our second and final entry is string. By the way, I just wanted to explain real quick in case you're not familiar with string games. The string entry is going to be talking a lot about Cat's Cradle. If you've never heard of that, it's just a string game that you normally would play with another person. And then there's also a version you can do on your own. And I'll put some links to both of those down in the description. And the one I did at the beginning is called the Jacob's Ladder. I'll put a link to that too. There's a bunch of different versions. This one was pretty simple though. String, a cord, line, or thread. A bit of imagination and a length of string are all that's needed to enjoy one of the simplest and most widespread forms of entertainment known. Twisting and looping a series of string images, as one does when playing Cat's Cradle, illustrated folk tales and provided a pleasant way to pass long nights for the Navajo and the Eskimo, Aboriginal Australians, African tribespeople, and those of New Guinea, to name just a few. Most of what's known about the art of string stems from research done by A.C. Haddon, a charismatic Cambridge professor of anthropology who devised a notation method for recording hundreds of different string figures in the late 19th century, with the hopes of understanding the extent of contact between tribes. A shared battery of string figures indicated close relations. String was his pet passion, one of his students shared. "I can imagine that some people would think we are demented, or at least wasting our time," he noted. Haddon's followers fanned out, comparing Micronesian and Melanesian figures. They collected figures in India and in the Anglo-Egyptian Sudan. They juxtaposed the Fijians' parakeet's playground with the Chama Indians' toad. The Navajo made the Pleiades in string, while the Kauai Papuans crafted crocodiles, crabs, and coconut palms. The most widespread figure was the mouse, in which a tiny looped mouse escapes a cat, slipping through a maze of fretwork. String figures done by Eskimos, however, were judged the most realistic, like one remarkable figure which, when manipulated quickly, looks like a river flowing between two mountains down a range and into a plain where a single mountain rises alongside a man in a boat catching salmon. Wow. I couldn't learn how to do that one for today, sorry. Only in Europe did the anthropologists come up empty-handed, or nearly so. Besides the cat's cradle known in China, Korea, Japan, the Philippines, and Borneo, and introduced to England via the tea trade, there were few new figures to be found. we may fairly safely venture the generalization that civilization kills cats' cradles, concluded Haddon's daughter, Kathleen. Following in her father's footsteps, Kathleen Haddon Rishbeth collected figures from all over the world and wrote several books on string. While other Western explorers traveled with hired riflemen to keep them safe, both Haddons relied on string games to win over the tribespeople they encountered in dangerous places like New Guinea or Borneo. I once arrived alone at a village up the Fly River in Papua, where no white woman had been before, and as I did not know the language, I wondered at first what to do, Kathleen wrote. She took out her string and slowly the local villagers crowded around her. First the children, then their mothers, and then the men, all riveted by the new tricks she introduced and eager to show her theirs. There are few memories more delightful than those of chance encounters with parties of natives, she went on. The squatting beside the track, the exchange of courtesies and string, the mutual delight in recognizing old favorites, the excitement and applause that greet new ones, the final regretful leave-taking, and all without one word being spoken on either side that was intelligible to the other. Alright, I hope you thought that was fun. Teen Story Share will be back on June 4th. In the Kitchen will be back on June 8th. This series, Teen Story Share, is going to keep being every Friday. In the Kitchen will be every second and fourth Friday during the summertime. Alright, have a great weekend, and we'll see you in June. Bye!